He's Metz. He's Tass. It's the Metzger Tassoul Show.
Gets me every time, that intro, huh?
Did it actually play for you, or did it just flicker?
No, it played.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. It just looked like it was flickering on my end. I didn't hear a thing.
Your voice isn't matching your mouth. It looks like we're doing ancient kung fu theater.
Perfect.
That's weird. Anyway, we're live. So how's everybody doing? Thanks for joining us. We got a guest on the show today, and everybody I think knows him, but may not realize they know him. And
what was the case for me?
We'll talk about Mr. Jay McGowan. That was the case for you, you said?
Yes.
All right. So we're just sharing. Are we sharing? Because sharing is
caring.
Thank you. So Mr. Jay McGowan's going to join us today. And Mr. Jay McGowan also happens to be someone who's going to come out and speak at our All Systems Go event in Orlando, Florida on March 24th. And, I've had a couple dinners now with Jay, and I don't want to give anything away yet. I don't want to tell you how I met Jay. I think we'll enlighten everybody. But I think this show will be great for everybody to listen to because, we like these cool sayings. Your net worth is dependent upon your network and who you hang out with. And anytime you get to hang out with successful people or successful driven people, you're going to get something out of it. And I asked Jay if he would be kind enough to just come on and, get introduced to the martial arts industry at least. So let me bring Mr. Jay McGowan on here. Let's see. There he is. Hello, sir. What's happening, buddy?
Not much, man. What's going on with you guys? I am excited to be on the show. I really am.
Well, thank you, sir, for being on the show. Thank you for coming on. And, it's not like it's a big show. I mean, now that you're on the show, we'll have maybe 2 viewers now instead of 3.
There we go.
But Jay, so you heard me talk about this, and I told everybody that's watching this, and I'm sure we'll get some people trickling on here. Miss Geely is on. Who else is on? You could say hello. But I say to people in this industry, right, that, we have you as a guest speaker. Well, who's Mr. Jay McGowan? Well, I know you in 2 different worlds now, right? And I know you in a world that I want to touch on about business and what you're doing in the corporate world and the business world. But tell people, I'll let you tell them, how are we confident that everybody knows who you are?
Well, I tell you what, if you've been to any parties, if you've been to any clubs, any sporting events, there's a very good chance that you may have heard 1 or 2 of my records because I produce, wrote, and sing and perform some pretty big records. We're very, very blessed that we've had some very good success, and these records were pretty successful, I would have to say. Matter of fact, we did these records back in the 90s, and we get just as many streams now as a lot of new artists, and we haven't even put a new record out. So these old records get huge amount of streams. It's like, a couple million every month we're getting streamed and on our old records. So you want me to tell them what records, or do they already know?
Well, here's what I'd like to do. I would like to ask, first of all, before you say anything, and hey, this you guys are fine. This might be frozen over here. This isn't changing, and I'm not seeing it. So I want to make sure I can see comments if there's comments. Oh, there we go. Okay, so Miss Geely, you know a song. There it is. right? Does anybody else know Mr. Jay McGowan or any of his songs that he has sang, written, produced, performed? Does anybody else know some big songs that's watching? And then we're
Come
going
on, everybody.
Is Miss Dewey the only one watching right now? No. Does anybody know any other songs? Now what you're doing is you're going on Google, probably, right?
Let's look this guy up. Should we just help him out a little bit?
Here we go. What's it?
She's going through. Listen, she's going through a whole album here. Make Your Body Move. That's going pretty far back there. That was before the big hits. So I'm very impressed.
So yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That record was on the. I say this: if our hit record, Whoop There It Is, came at, I'll call it. It was the 900th record we did. Make Your Body Move was probably 700. We were 700 records in before we got that hit. But yeah, that's impressive.
All right, what's
there's a lesson in and of itself right there. I said there's a lesson in and of itself right there. So how many records did it take? Well, and I guess success is measured different ways, right? But for you said success came at record 900. Did I hear that right? At 900?
Oh yeah, and I'm probably a little low, to be honest with you. We made a lot of records. We made years and years and years of records trying to craft it. And a lot of no's, a lot of we don't like that, a lot of it's not gonna work, but it just drove us to continue. And just imagine if we had stopped on 899. Just gave up and that's it. This is not working. Just imagine. So we didn't. And that next record changed everything. And I think it's like that in business. I think sometimes we're right there and, we've been through a lot, but we're right there. I call it 6 feet from gold. You're right there and you give up and success is right around the corner. So I'm glad we didn't give up and we put Whoop There It Is, changed everything for us.
So what are some of the other hits everyone's going to know? And then we'll talk some business.
Okay. So we put out Whoop There It Is, that hit. And then we went back to the drawing board and crafted another record called Tootsie Roll. That was a big record for us. Sold a couple million. And then we figured, why stop there? So we crafted another record called Come On Ride the Train, which we had an opportunity to perform on Oprah and a bunch of different places. That was a huge record for us. Probably our biggest crossover record was Come On Ride the Train. And then as David, I see, is put in the chat here, Space Jam. We had an opportunity. Well, we created an opportunity, and we'll talk about that. We created an opportunity, and Space Jam was birthed, and that soundtrack went on to sell. I think the last time I counted, it was 9 million albums on the soundtrack. It did just as, in the scope of things, it was just as successful as the movie. Matter of fact, the soundtrack is synonymous with the movie. People, when you think of the soundtrack or the movie, you think of the music. And so it was pretty cool.
So, yeah, that's awesome. I mean, and everybody knows these songs. That's why I was saying everyone knows who you are, but we're not here to talk to people about the record industry, and we're not here to try to inspire musicians. The reason I wanted you on the show is, as you know, I'll just say it now, is Mr. Silverman, Frank Silverman, and I, business partners. We have an annual real estate party that we have, and we have some different acts come in. You were one of those acts, but unlike all of the different acts we've had between CNC Music Factory and Rob Bass and Tone Loc, and you came up to us after you performed all these songs and said, "Hey, look, I love speaking. I speak to business professionals. I work with big multi-billion-dollar companies, and I like you guys have a big professional network here. Let's talk about some of that stuff." And we got together, and I was very impressed. And so now let's fast forward. You have a passion. You had a passion for music. But is it fair to say, Jay, that what's the term? Did you get burned out? Did you just want to turn the chapter? Did you want a new chapter? Like what made you switch over to business and training in the corporate world?
Well, I don't think I've ever switched to it. It was always there. I guess I didn't realize how many business type of things that we were doing. Matter of fact, when I talked to guys like yourselves on the call here, I didn't realize how many business strategies we were using to get to where we were. So what I did is, I'll never be out of music, meaning I licensed the record. We had the Geico commercial, it's in movies. It was just put in Fortnite, it's on the video game. So I'm never out the music, but the business side of it was just a natural progression to go to. And really now I look back on some of the things that happened, and I'm like, man, that was a great lesson and a great strategy that we stumbled across, if you will, because we didn't quite know what it was, but it came natural to us. And so, yeah, we kind of pivoted, if you will, and it was a natural progression.
So I know in March, we're going to talk about, your topic is about creating, not waiting for opportunities. And I think it's a phenomenal story, and you may get into it in March, but how you were basically, weren't you selling shoes before you dove into the music?
Yes, I was a shoe salesman. I was what is it, Al Bundy?
Yeah, that's right.
That was me, and again, we will talk about creating opportunities, because I think it's a hidden gem, there's so many opportunities, and sometimes we're waiting on these opportunities, and sometimes they come, but sometimes they don't.
Right. And the other thing that fascinated me, and I want everybody to hear this because we talk about this in the industry all the time. When we were having dinner, you said you did Hoot There It Is, then you did Tootsie Roll, then you did Come On Ride the Train, then you did Space Jam. And what you said to me is you figured out a system or a formula to write like a hit song. Like there is definitely a formula or a system to follow. Now, does a system and formula guarantee success? Probably not, but does it increase your odds tremendously? Yes, absolutely. But I say that because we preach in MAIA, and we preach in the industry, you have to have systems. It has to be duplicatable. But what is it, and when did you realize you found out, wait a minute, there's all a resemblance here of every hit song. They all have something. When did you consciously recognize that?
I think it was after Woot There It Is, because we studied records coming up. That was, it's one thing to listen to a record, and I listen to a record for enjoyment. But it's like when I watch a movie. I watch a movie right now, and I'm watching for enjoyment. But there's so many lessons in movies that just kind of goes over a lot of people's head. I'm taking notes sometimes, and I'll pause a movie when I can, because there's so many lessons. So I think for us, it's just those lessons that we learned definitely translated over to business and all the things that we're doing now. So that's really where the gold is in this. And as we talk, and as we, I can't wait to be at the conference, because I think a lot of people, and again, as we talk about creating opportunities, I think a lot of people, we always are searching for new opportunities, which is not a bad thing. But sometimes I'm writing a book called Rebrand New. I believe you can take something that's already there, and sometimes you just got to repackage it. You don't have to recreate it. Subway did it. Subway did their refresh. So you walked into a Subway, and all of a sudden, well, they still sell the same sandwiches. They just call them something different. They repackage it. They change the colors. They change the vibe. They change it felt different when you walked in Subway. But that was a rebrand and so that's the thing that, with opportunities, sometimes you just kind of rebrand yourself. And we'll talk about that at the conference a lot.
Tass, I want to say this. I don't know if you caught it, but he said everybody, a lot of times is looking for the new opportunity. And I thought of our industry. How often is our industry looking for the next biggest, newest thing? And then they forget everything that got them to where they're at, and they just go and try to grab the newest thing, whether that was Taibo back in the 90s, or incorporating Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu when you're a Taekwondo guy and you've never done Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in your life, or capitalizing on the cardio kickboxing craze after Taibo. But Tass, I want to throw this to you though, and I want to relate it to Jay because he said something else that I picked up on that I want you to take here. But he was a shoe salesman, and he went from a shoe salesman to selling, like, I think it's 25 million records, with all his songs. And you asked him a question. You said you were 700 in, and he goes, we were years and years and years, and we had struggles. What kind of struggles? Why don't you talk about the struggles that people in our industry have, where they feel like this is the hardest business in the world, and they just feel like people in other businesses don't have the struggles that we do?
Well, yeah, there's a lot, right? You have people that have full-time jobs, and, so there's things that they say that they can't get done, and rightfully so, right? Some people that have full-time jobs and they say they want to keep their full-time job, and their martial arts is just their side hustle, and they just want to do it. Not even side hustle. That's a bad word. That's a young kid's word today, right? It's their passion, and that's why they do it. But I believe it's an excuse because they can't make it successful. So they're just making that, hey, I love my full-time job. I just do martial arts because it's my passion. Then you have the instructor side of things. We just can't get it done because, we can't find good instructors. We can't find good people. We can't find good staff. And our industry is different, and you just can't do it that way. I mean, there's so many different roadblocks. And I think, a lot of those roadblocks, not that they're not true, right? Because there are some, it's way easier. I use the Subway example. If you lose an employee at Subway, it's way easier to hire someone to be a sandwich artist, right? You can teach that craft in probably, a 4-hour shift, as opposed to hiring a martial art instructor, right? And then you have to have someone that's trained and knowledgeable and charismatic and can do all those things. And so I think there's a lot of excuses that are made, but I think a lot of times it's mindset as well. And you probably have people in the industry that maybe looked at you guys as you got lucky, or maybe you sold out. I mean, I don't know what the terminology would be. For us, that's what it is in our industry. Like, oh man, they just sold out. They got away from the old school R&B, and they did this instead, right? For us, it's they don't teach traditional martial arts. They're McDojos. Like, there's always an excuse as to why they're not that next level. But I'm curious, did the same thing happen in your industry as far as, there's the wannabes, right? That everyone wants to be there. But then there's also the people that just don't put the work and time in to be able to get there. And there's some people that do, and unfortunately will never figure out the formula, or maybe are just too stubborn to listen to other people that have already figured it out. And so I'm just curious if your industry, hearing some of that, was similar in regards to the martial art industry.
Absolutely. Well, first of all, you see my shirt, no excuses. So I just don't. That's something that I embed in myself and my kids and my family. No excuses. We winners find a way. You're just gonna figure it out,
right.
And that's what you have to do. But yeah, it happens in our industry too. It happens in, I hate that phrase. It's what we've always done. Oh, that's just, yeah. It's what that'll get you in trouble every time. It's what we've always done. Well, yeah, that's what maybe, there's a quote that says, you can't fix problems or solve problems with the same level of thinking that created them. You really gotta change that. But we have that too. So you're right. We have people that they automatically want to find out, or they want to blame it on something, or say, like, right now, if I were going to start a martial arts studio, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get with somebody that's done it. And I'm not going to get with them to find out or question what they did. I don't need to question that. I'm going to find out what you did. And then I'm going to use that Bruce Lee quote that I love where he says, you take something, you look at it, you take what you can use from it. You discard the things that maybe just doesn't work for you. Then you make it your own, right? And that's what I'm going to use. So I believe in, something that I failed to I mentioned earlier. I'll tell you when we really got the success. So we did the 899 records. It wasn't until we got with somebody that had already made a hit. That's when it changed. We got a coach, if you will. It changed then because we were doing a lot of things. They were just out of order. We were kind of spinning, if you will. So it wasn't like we weren't doing the things we were writing songs, but it just was an order to it. I believe success has an order to it. And once we figured out the order, then it was like, oh my goodness, we were doing this first and we were doing this second and we were doing this. And all we need to do is shift it around. And here's why. And so I believe I'm big on, I spend a lot of money on coaches to this day. That's just me. That's something I'm going to do. I have to do it because I want to grow. But anyway, that's when it changed for us, when we actually shifted and got with someone that had done it. Another artist here in Orlando that had success. He said, guys, you guys here's what you need to do. And you got to be willing to accept that coaching, by the way. So we fought it a little bit because this guy was asking us to change our whole style, and when he wasn't saying don't rap anymore, but what he was saying was, maybe you should do this and maybe you should do it this way. And at first we were like, nah, not going to happen. And after some convincing, we did it. And the first record we came out with was, Oop, There It Is. So I tell him every time I see him, I'm like, man, I owe you so much. I don't know if there's an amount I can pay you for the advice you gave us. I really don't think it is, but I always give him credit. DJ Magic Mike, some people may know him, huge artist. And that's a friend of mine, Mike, and he changed everything for us by giving us a little order. So I don't want to go long-winded, but that's the deal.
No. And before Metzger steps in, because he's going to say, it's funny how Mike's, get that recognition because he's going to make a comment about
it. That's me. I'm DJ Magic Mike.
That's him.
Yeah. Thank you, Jay.
Look, you're not opening a martial arts school, but you're 99% further ahead if you were going to open a martial arts school than the rest of the industry, because the rest of the industry doesn't think that way, right? They're not going to say, I need to go get a coach, find someone who's done it, follow what they're doing. Because in our industry, which I'm sure is similar to the music industry or any industry, there's a lot of egos and everybody wants to do it their way and they think their way is the best. And man, I tell you, you can, there's the expression, small hinges swing big doors. You can be doing everything. Like you said, you had the order and it was 4, 2, 1, 3 instead of 1, 2, 3, 4. And the same thing in martial art business, right? There's only so many ways of doing business, but if you do business in a certain order and the system's in a certain order, it's going to net a different result. I remember, as a client of Mr. Metzger's, and I was with him, and I'm like, I started thinking like, how have we become so successful? We've already done all of these other things. Like there wasn't a lot of necessarily new. There was new, but not a lot of new, but it was the details and it was how we did it that exploded the martial arts business, right? And so there's a lot of similarities, which is really, really cool to hear.
Hey, so Jay, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and that's why I was talking about rebranding, because sometimes it gets a little stale, right? You're doing it, maybe in your world, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe how you're acquiring new students, and maybe it gets a little old. That's why I believe you have to rebrand. You have to rebrand what's already there. It's funny because as soon as I start talking to Mike, I was, the first thing I thought, I came home and I wrote down like 30 ideas for how to make martial arts studios more effective. And I was so excited about it. And I'm writing these things. And, and it was funny because when we met up and I'm sharing some of these ideas, he's like, well, yeah, we're doing that, but we never looked at it that way. We never took that approach. And that's what I mean by rebranding. Sometimes we just have to rebrand. And again, that's the nice thing about having you're not doing it on your own. You know, if I can just imagine if I can get Tiger Woods to just knock it on the green for me every day, and all I got to do is go and put it in. It's like, to me, that's what having someone with you or someone assisting you is like having that. It's like having somebody, listen, I'm gonna knock it over here for you, and all you got to do is do this. So I'd rather do that, and you know, that's just me. I want to work smart. I really do, and I don't want to work hard. I mean, I want to work smart.
Right on. Yeah, and I love that, because in our industry they call that having black belt eyes and tunnel vision, right? We do things the same way. You said it before. You know, that's the way we've always done it. You know, the martial art enthusiasts see the guy kicking the other guy, and the guy's bent over and folded over the kick, and we're like, man, that's a really cool kick. And the community sees it as, I don't want to be that guy getting kicked, right? So it's just a different perspective. Yeah. And, you know, we look at things a little bit differently sometimes, right?
Hey, one of my favorite stories, and you may even share this in March, but it's so good. I want everyone watching this that may not make it in March to hear this, because I think it's huge, and it stuck with me on your creative ways. And I know you're going to hit it, but it's just one little blurb in your speech. You'll probably hit it, but you got to tell these people that are watching how you created the opportunity when you needed a recording studio and nobody gave you the time of day, and it was way too expensive and you couldn't afford it. Because in our industry, we're always trying to acquire a new student. A lot of people in the industry are trying to get into the public school systems, and they get shut down. They get told, no, we're not interested in that. And you got the same thing basically for recording studios, right? But you, like you said earlier, winners find a way, right? Winners find a way. Can you just quickly tell that story on how you created the opportunity and what you did to get into a recording studio without spending money and without being told no?
Yeah, you know what? It was, that was marketing. I didn't realize it, but it was it was like, that was part of my marketing strategy. But anyway, so here we are, this group. We didn't have any money. And we started calling around the studios, and they were just extremely expensive back in the days. And we were like, man, we can't do that. So we sat down and said, what's the goal here? What do you want? And we say, well, what we want is we want a place where we want free reign to a studio. We want to be able to go in the studio, not with a clock ticking, just have a studio where we can do our thing as much as we need to do it. So we that was the goal. So let's work backwards. How do we do that? So we couldn't afford to do it. So what we did, we knew we were good. We knew we had something that the world needed to hear. We truly believed that. And so we, came up with this strategy that we would create a little fire. We knew the fire we knew it was hot, but we needed everybody else to feel the heat and the fire. So we picked up the phone and we found a studio in Jacksonville, Florida that we wanted to go to. So let's do this marketing strategy with this studio. So we picked up the phone, called this studio, not as a group, but as a record store in Georgia.
Okay, pause a minute. I just want to make sure people are following you. You called the recording studio in Jacksonville and you said, I'm the owner of a record store in Georgia.
Yes. I'm the owner of a record store in Georgia, and I got a lot of kids coming in asking about this group, the Chill Deal Boys, that was us. And they're asking about it. We know you're a studio in Jacksonville. We hear you're one of the best ones in Jacksonville. And surely we know these guys are from Jacksonville. So we wanted to just see if you knew anything about them. The person that answered the phone, no, we haven't heard of this group. No big deal. All right, well, thank you. We waited about a week. We did it again. Now we're a different store, Alabama. Calling up, looking for this group, Chill Deal Boys. They're creating a little buzz. A couple of kids are coming in asking about it. You guys have any clue who they are? We're trying to get a hold to them, trying to at least get their record. Again, no. Haven't heard of this. We did that one other time. it's so funny because when I talk about it now, I don't know what made us do it, but we did it a third time, and same thing. But now we waited a couple of days. Now here's where the magic happens. On the fourth time, we called up. Hey, studio, we're the Chill Deal Boys. We're looking for somewhere to record. A couple of our friends told us about your studio, and we want to be able to find out if, what's your guys' rate. We'd be interested in possibly checking out your studio. The guy says, hold on. I'm thinking, okay. He comes back. He said, can you guys come over? We like to talk with you. Okay. Yeah, we could do that. When we got over, they said, the guy that owned the studio said, a friend of mine from New York, this is what he said. A friend of mine from New York had mentioned that we should probably be reaching out to you guys and doing some business. He said some good things about you. And, he told us we should be dealing with you. Make a long story short, we were that studio ran from, I don't know, in the mornings to about 7 or 8. We had free reign to that studio from 8 on back. Matter of fact, we slept in the studio. That was our first record label studio, if you will, deal we did. But that was us. And later, I remember later we were at dinner with the owner and we told him the story. We was like, we got to tell him. I'm like, nah, I don't want to do it. They're like, we got to tell him. And I told him what happened. And I guess he New York guy, he was like, no, a friend really called. I'm like, no, a friend really didn't. But anyway, you know why we did that? We weren't trying to mislead them, because if we didn't have the goods to deliver, then none of that would have mattered, because we had to actually back up what we were saying. But we knew we could do that. We knew we could do that. But that's how we got in. That's how we got in there. If it wasn't for that, sometimes I think you got to fan your own fire a little bit. You have to do that. Now you got to do the work, and you got to make sure you're ready. We didn't do that prematurely. We had been a group, and we made sure we had something to offer, because had they listened to us when we got over there and it was crap, guess what? All of that would have been for nothing, right? But when they heard it, they was like, wow, I see why my friend from New York told me to reach out to you guys. And it's history from there. And if it wasn't for that, I can tell you this, if it wasn't for that, that was the beginning of us crafting and creating, there it is. There's a lot of things. I always tell people, a moment happens not in that moment. There's a lot of things that had to happen for a moment to happen. And that was definitely one. If it wasn't for that, things could have went a different way. So create opportunities. Sometimes, hey, I could have waited on somebody to call up and say, hey, we want you guys to come in here and use the studio all day, all night without us charging you. Probably wasn't going to happen. But we reached out and we created opportunities. And I think that's something that we will talk about more at the conference, but because there's multiple examples. That's just one small one.
Right.
I got so many examples of doing that. Matter of fact, that's kind of how it's part of my business strategy now. I can sit back and say, who do I want to do business with? And then I design a strategy on how to get in touch with them and get that business relationship going. So it's kind of cool.
Well, but real quick, and Tass, and you could jump in, but how many let's keep it in our industry a minute. How many school owners go to a business or an elementary school or a public school or anywhere, get told no, and they're like, they said no? That's the difference between Mr. Jay McGowan, and the average person, right? That's the difference between a determined, focused, winning mindset and someone who just reacts to what the world's giving them, right? I mean, there's a lot of people that will take, people, I love this, we won't get into this, we'll talk about it in March, but you say, there's the saying, hey, you got to listen for the knock at the door. When opportunity's knocking, you got to open the door, right? Well, you got some people that don't even recognize the knock. You got those people.
Yeah.
Then you got people who just sit there and wait for the knock to come, and they'll open the door when it comes, but sometimes it doesn't come. And then you got people like yourself, right, that create the opportunity and go through the door and go and find it. Go find and create the opportunity. I mean, and this is why I wanted you to come and speak to our clients and our guests at the event. And you do have more. I don't even want to get into the other one with Woot. There it is, and the opportunity and the way your mind worked there to explode that song. But I want to,
you know, Mike, there are kids. There's kids. There's people like myself. I'm big on health. We need your industry. You can't wait on us to find you. We need you to create strategies to get to us because we need you. There's kids right now sitting at home that need martial arts. There's people like myself that are sitting. We want it. We don't know. We don't know how to maneuver it. You got to get it. You got to get to us. And sometimes, if you think that way, I'm not waiting on them. If you think that way, I think, and then there's strategies to doing that, because I don't want to make it seem like it's so easy, because there's actually strategies to doing it. It's not, and I've just learned some strategies, and I've learned some ways to maneuver, to where I could get to people without them knowing I'm trying to get to them. You know the story with you guys. Me being at the concert and performing, that was just a small part of what my strategy was. Right. The other part was being on this call right now, but that was done before I even met you.
Well, you were the only one that approached it. Everyone else just comes in, does their thing, and thank you.
No, I had to have the goods to back it up, right? Because I could have told you guys that, did all that, and then you guys heard me and said this guy's philosophies are terrible, his strategies are terrible, he brings something to the table, which that would still be better than not approaching. But but I knew I have something. I think I have something to offer, and I just have to make sure that I market that properly.
Tass, did you want to jump in? Did you want to say something?
I made a note that I'm going to have 7 parents call every other week to the elementary school saying, "Hey, do you guys offer an after-school martial art program?" And then create the need, and then come to the schools that we haven't been able to get into.
That's right. Yeah. You could be the parent, Tass.
That's right. Or I could be the parent. That's right.
But think about this. What are you actually hurting? The school needs the help. They just don't know it yet. Sometimes they don't even know it. They're fighting. And then once you give it to them, they're like, "Oh my goodness, this is great." And so like the studio owner, he was like, you think he was mad that we did that? No. You know how much money we made that studio?
Right.
I mean, he's glad we did that, right? So I like that idea, man.
Hey,
I'm on board with that.
So Jay, real quick, before we start winding down here, I want to let people know. So what you did was there was a major corporation that asked you to come in and work with their sales team, right? And tell me, in an overview, what did they ask you to do, and what was the result of that?
Well, they needed me to create just a different way, a different sales process. And when I say create a new sales process, rebrand their sales process. Let me just say that. Now I have some strategies I feel like are my strategies at work and things that I developed, but for the most part, I can, what I feel like I do well is you tell me your end goal, and I help companies get to that end goal in a different way than maybe they've been doing, and it's not as effective as they wanted. And that's what this company came and said, "Hey, we need to communicate with our owners, if you will, and our clients in a different way. We've been trying to do it this way, and it's getting old, it's getting stale. They put up a defense to it, if you will. They already know what we're going to do before we even do it." And so we just rebranded it, recreated it. And now these owners are happily coming in. They feel like they're coming in for something different, and everything's just just a rebrand. So that's kind of what I did for this company. This is $1 billion company. And I can tell you now, I think I undercharged them because of the revenue they're generating now. It's crazy. But in truth, it was, for me being an outsider, it was kind of easy for me to see. And when I say easy for me to see, I don't have any guidelines. I don't. It's like in martial arts. I don't have guidelines. So I'm just going to throw out everything. I'm like, let's try this. Let's try this. And some of it, you can bring me back within the rails. But for the most part, hey, what's the worst thing going to happen? It's not going to work. Okay, we're going to keep moving. Or maybe we redesign it a little bit. Maybe we don't completely get rid of it. Maybe you say, Jay, I like that, but let's do it this way because of the market. So that's all I did with this company. And they're very happy. And from that came other companies. And I just did it with the photography company, which I know nothing about photography, but they brought me in and they wanted me to reshape how they do what they do.
Now, a photography company, you flew out to Las Vegas, right?
Yes, it was actually association. So it wasn't one company brought me out to talk to the entire photography association.
To put it in perspective, how many photographers were at this thing?
This was 1,500 at this particular conference.
So,
and
similar to a super show, but 1,500 photographers that have their own companies were there, and they wanted you to speak to them because I think you told me, so we all talk about obstacles, but just briefly, you told me about the obstacle. These photographers are saying, our business is getting cut out because everyone has a phone and they could just take their own pictures. So they're not hiring us anymore. And you said, no, they need you.
The first thing I said to them, I said, isn't this beautiful that look how many more pictures are being taken? Look what this cell phone did for us. I mean, oh my goodness. You can't look at it like you're not taking the pictures. Listen, there's ways around. That's a good thing. You just got to look at it differently. It's more pictures out there that need your expertise. Let's just look at it that way. And the business, I told them, listen, the business is not just behind the camera. Same way with martial arts. The business is not just on the mat, and I know you guys know this, but the business is bigger than that. And if you only see the mat, then guess what? That's what you're going to see. I don't see the mat. And when I think of martial arts, oh my goodness, there's so many arms to me that is just amazing. But there's probably areas that, I don't know, maybe you guys have tapped into it or maybe not, but it was just clear to me. I'm like, oh, that's perfect for that. That's perfect for that.
The way you articulated that, though, Tass, the way he articulated that, you say we know that, but most of the industry, the majority of the martial arts industry does see martial arts on the mat, right? And they can't get their minds off the mat because they think that when they do, and they focus on the business off the mat, that it will affect the quality on the mat. And it's totally the opposite, right? But it's interesting because it's all perspectives, right? It's all perspectives. If you're a photographer and you're depressed and you're down saying, everybody takes their own pictures now with their phones. Okay, shut your business down and get into another industry, I guess, right? But do you think we're never going to have a photographer anymore? There's not going to be a super successful photographer out there. My wife alone supports a photographer that probably makes millions of dollars a year just from my wife and the Christmas pictures. And even Tass was in some of my family pictures because he happened to be visiting at the time. So, and my wife has a cell phone too. It doesn't matter, right? So,
yeah, it's just a different way to look at it. Like I said, they got it. I think they got it. I hope they got it. At least I hope one of them got it. How about that? One of them got it, then I'm good. It was a successful opportunity to go out to Vegas. But that's the same thing. I hope that, and I don't know much. I've done some research, but I'm looking forward to March because I'm looking forward to, I love talk. That's why I watch your show. I love hearing about the challenges because I see things. I'm an outsider, right? I'm an outsider, but I'm a business guy. So it doesn't matter what business it is. Business is business. You know, the terms are different, or the, you know, what do you call, all that stuff is different, but you know, it's still business. They're people. We're in the people business. At the end of the day, we're in the people business. And I see huge upside for your industry. And, you know, you guys are the leaders in it from what I'm seeing. By the way, you guys are influencers, you know, I don't look at you guys as salespeople, or you're martial arts influencers. They have social media influencers. They have you're influencers, you're tastemakers. You guys set the stage and the path for where the industry is going. And that's what I want to talk about in March is about people graduating from sales, if you will. Sales is sales. I'm with that. But graduating to influencing, because influencing moves people. And that's what we want to do. We want to move people to act, influencing retention, influencing you know, new students, influencing everything around it. The better at you are at influencing people, the better you're going to be at being successful. People want to be influenced, and that's what you got these kids that have a gazillion followers, and businesses are now paying them versus paying some other person because of their influence, their ability to influence action. And that's what you have to be that is your school, is your instructors, is your staff, are you guys influencers? Or are you just there order takers, or you know what? You got to influence the way it moves. But anyway.
No, listen, can't just be an educator. Can't just be an educator. You're right. You got to influence. And, you know, that's another way of articulating. There are massive, huge, $100 million PR companies to market and put your brand out there. And guess what? They're not going to them. They're going to the 22-year-old TikToker kid because he influences, knows nothing about marketing, or he just stumbled on something like you said. You didn't know what you were doing back then. Now you look back now and you're like, that was marketing, right? And people are paying these kids millions of dollars because you're right. They know how to, they are influencing people. And if you are a martial arts instructor and you want to get your art, or you want to pass on your martial art to your students, can't do it if they quit. So it's not your art that's going to keep them. It's the emotion they feel by being there and how influenced they are, right? It's emotion. Absolutely. I got to say this, Jay and Tass, I'm going to ask you, have you ever been, when's the last time you were excited in this fashion, in this context, right? Because we always work. We work the elite events. We're always working, right? And I'm always excited to see everybody and mingle and just be around all these people. But I got to say, Jay, I'm extremely excited to be back there sitting in my seat, ready to listen to you talk to the group. I think whoever's watching this, if you're not wanting to come out to the event, and by the way, our elite clients, they don't pay anything. It's free. So like if you show up, you lose money. MAIA loses money if they show up because we pay for dinner and this and that. But I'm excited, right? I mean, are you feeling that excitement, Tass?
I am, yeah. And it's a curious excitement. Like I'm waiting to hear, like, number one, the stories, right? Number two, it's just interesting. At a level of success, doesn't matter what industry, right? Things always can translate over to the next industry. So yeah, very, very excited, very curious, and excited to listen to what you have to say, my friend.
Here, the team just put that up. If anyone just wants to look at what the agenda is, about the event, March 24th and 5th in Orlando, guys, come meet Jay. Maybe we'll sing Space Jam together. We'll sing Tootsie Roll, Come On Ride the Train. We'll party, But my point is I'm so excited to give all of our clients and the industry, right, just a different take, on things like you said, things they know. They may know it, but they're in the wrong order, right? And Mr. Arsaman, Josh said it, success, you said it, and then he quoted you, success has an order. He loves that. And that's where people get stifled. They're like, I know this already. I know this. Well, if you know this, why are you only grossing $10,000 a month in your school when the guy down the road's grossing $120,000 a month? If you know this, right?
And if you don't do it for no other reason, Mike, if they don't do it for any other reason, first of all, I love to meet, I love to perform. I'm going to be performing, but if you don't do it for any other reason, let your passion for the arts be your reason why you reach out to be better. That should be what drives you. You're not coming to this event for Jay. You're not coming to this event for Mike or these guys. You're coming because your passion for the arts. You want to be like, I want to be better at communicating with the people that I feel like I can help. And we all need help in that department, man. And I'm constantly getting coached. After this call, I got a call with my coach because I constantly get coached and I believe it. I can't wait for the wealth seminar, which I found out about. Man, I'm going to be front row there because I might have sold a lot of records, but I've messed up a lot of money. I've messed up a lot of money. And guess what? I will be front row taking notes from people that have done it and have made the money, because I've done that, but have managed the money. And or managed the business of the money. So I'm excited. So I'm going to encourage everybody, come out, get that little thing out. There's two people. There's the doubt on this shoulder, and there's brush this off. That doubt, that's just trying to keep you from being successful. And sometimes we have to it's going to be good. And I'm excited. I know what I'm going to bring. I know what you guys are going to bring. So you're going to walk away from it with something that if you go and apply, because you can't eat the recipe, by the way, you got to actually do some work. But
I love that.
But if you go and apply it, man, it's going to change everything for you, and you'll be able to serve the people that you're passionate, the reason why you're doing it. And that's my 2 cents.
There it is. Tass, anything
No, I just wrote that down. You can't eat your recipe. You got to do the work. I love it.
You got to bake a cake, man. You got to bake a cake. You got to bake it.
That's right. That's right.
Hey,
there's an order.
There is an order, my friend. Thank you for coming on. And anybody that just tuned in, I would suggest that on your own time, go back, watch the replay, and listen to some of the golden nuggets that were dropped. Golden nuggets of inspiration. Golden nuggets of looking at things from a different perspective. I eat that stuff up. I love that. I always like to find what's the easiest, most effective, efficient path to the end goal. And you're right. You said it earlier, Jay. You start with the end in mind, then just figure out the best path to get there, right? We got to work from the top down sometimes, not from the bottom up, right? You got to change it a little bit. So I'm excited about the event, guys. Click the link if you want to get info. And thank you so much. I know you're going to talk to your coach and Tass.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was fantastic. Excited to see you next month, and I think, like I said, everyone's gonna love it. It'll be great. So appreciate you.
No, thank you guys for having me, and there it is, man. Let's make it happen.
Thank you, Jay.
All right, appreciate it. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.